Hi. Hi, Robert.
There's Robert having his lunch. Brilliant. Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome everybody to our Lunch and Learn this Friday. We've got, I was going to say we've got Andrew. We know we've got Andrew. We've got Robert. We've got Andy. Billy's here. Gillian's here. Janet's here. Melissa's here. Robert is here. Scott, Tom, and Yvonne. I'm just getting a couple more people joining.
Hi, everyone.
This is a purely selfish lunch and learn from my point of view, because I think I'm having a sauna installed next week. So I want to find out how beneficial this is going to be for me. So I was like, Andrew, you know all the stuff about
very beneficial.
And it's part of our Loch Long retreat. It's a major part. I think when I went in September, when did we do it? November. I think it was November, sometime last year. I was really looking forward to the sauna element of it, and I didn't realize how important it was to understand how to sauna bathe, how to use the heat, and also the benefits, finding out all of the major benefits that you get from heat treatment. So the idea of today's Lunch and Learn is for Andrew Ritchie, who most of you have met before, who's done a presentation on heart rate variability, excellent coach. We are doing the joint workshop retreat up in Scotland next month. He's going to give us a presentation on sauna bathing. And also after that, when you've all finished your lunch, a really good time then to do a little bit of animal flow movement. So we'll just give you a little bit of a taster also of what we're doing up in Scotland. So Andrew, thanks for joining, and I will hand over to you, sir.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. Thanks everyone for taking the time to come hear a little bit about what we've got to say here. And as always, thank you very much, Gray, for giving me the opportunity to come in and talk about this, because I'm quite passionate about all the things that we do at the retreat. But the sauna has really become something that I, just in my own practice, try to do as much as I possibly can. And yeah, it's become a kind of really big part of what we do at the retreats, at all the retreats that I do. And it's probably been one of the best received parts of it as well. And that's a lot of time down to just the experience itself and how people are really enjoying that, going into the heat and going into the cold. But once you lay the benefits of what's happening here on top of that, it becomes quite powerful. And then as a consistent practice, you can keep going for health and longevity. Is quite something, because the benefits that we'll speak about here are, I think, really super powerful, and they're all research backed. So I've got a short presentation here to do, and I hope it works. Cool. Can we see this, guys? Can I get a thumbs up if you can see that? Excellent, good stuff. Okay, great. So what we've got, well, first of all, yeah, we're going to talk about sauna for health and longevity. And you can see the pictures here. These are the sauna tents that we use up at the retreat. So some people who are on this call will have experienced these great sauna tents. They're cracking. And yeah, that's just on the grounds there that you can see of our retreat base up in Arica. And they're a really big feature of everything that we're kind of doing up there at the moment, because of these benefits that we're going to really be speaking about shortly. But it also just adds to the experience and just gives everybody a really great time. Okay, cool. So, this always happens. Is it going to start there? There we go. Okay, so quick agenda. I'm going to talk a bit about stress and sauna, because I think it starts the whole thing quite well, because sauna is a stressor, but it's a good stressor. And I just want to kind of touch on that, the kind of idea of bad stress and good stress. Then we're just going to hit these benefits out, because the benefits are just fabulous. And then we'll do questions. But before we do questions, I'll touch on why they're thinking it's so good for longevity, because there's specific things that are happening here in the heat that are very, very helpful. I mean, you combine that with what the research has showed the benefits to be, it is pretty powerful. Okay, so stress and sauna. We know we've heard about stress, right? Stress is stress, but we have good stressors and we have bad stressors. So there's good stress and there's bad stress, okay? So let's start off with bad stress that we all know, and everybody, I'm sure, has experienced at points in their life. That can be anxiety, worry. Poor diet also causes bad stress. Inadequate sleep can really be a big problem for not enabling us to manage stress, and just causes stress in itself. And then you've got the stress from just life, right? From your work, from relationships, from financial issues, from things that potentially happen from the pandemic, whatever it may be. Modern life creates stress. Now, these stresses, when they become chronic, and it's just stressor after stressor after stressor after stressor, can really cause mental and physical health problems and issues as you go through decades of just compiling stressor after stressor after stressor. So much so, that there's a stress pandemic going on, really. And I know we've all been coming through COVID, and COVID was the pandemic that was kind of top of the agenda, but there's a real one that's happening with stress as well. So much so that the World Health Organization has commented to say that it really is going to be one of the main mental and physical health issues of the future. And we need to be, as a society and as a world in general, looking at ways that we can help to manage that, because it is manageable. And some of the good things that we can do to help manage it are combat bad stress with good stress. Okay, so what is good stress? Good stress, also known as like a hormetic stressor, can just be a short dose of stress on the body. So just a little taste of stress, and it comes in many different forms, but the idea is we just give the body a wee taste of stress, and then it kind of knocks the body out of that kind of balance, and it has to rebuild itself stronger so that we become more resilient to all stress. So we kind of build resilience to bad stress by just giving ourselves little doses of good stress, and they come in many forms that I'm sure you're fairly aware of. But yeah, sorry. So just this good stress thing again before we get into the modes. It's activating genetic pathways that build up resilience to stress, basically. So we activate hardwired pathways that are in our system as we've evolved that help us build up resilience to the stressors of modern life, so we don't kind of get into this chronic stress and these issues. So examples of what they can be: exercise is a good stressor when it's managed correctly. If we're going too crazy all the time, and we're not giving ourselves time to recover, exercise can be a bad stress. But there is a lot of research to show that the benefit of exercise. So I'm a real proponent for good, healthy, quality exercise. Breath work can be a fantastic, it can be a stressor, but also ways to manage stress. So breath work can come in both different directions, and that's why it's just so powerful and so helpful to help us manage stress. But then also we can, through some soft and simple breath pausing, we can create good stressors that way. Also cold exposure, fasting, these are all examples of good stressors. When we just give ourselves a wee dose of them, can have a really beneficial impact. But one of my favorites is sauna, and that's what I'm trying to do all the time, basically because of these benefits that we're going to get into just now. Okay, so I hope that bit made sense. Right, so these are research-backed benefits, and a lot of this information comes from a doctor called Dr. Rhonda Patrick, that some of you may be aware of. She made a good name for herself on the Joe Rogan podcast, and she's a really fantastic resource. She really believes in this, and is a great resource to find out these benefits. So let's get into some of them. Okay, so this is all research-backed stuff. So let's start off with improved muscle mass. As we get older, we start to lose muscle mass. So we want to be trying to increase that and maintain that as we age, right? For longevity benefits and just for the benefits of not losing all your muscle. So there's a study that went along the lines of 2 long hot sauna sessions. Now these went on for quite some time. They were pretty hot and they were quite long ones. But they did it each day for 7 days, and it increased growth hormone by 16%. Now that's massive. And not everyone is going to be able to be going into the sauna. I'm not able to do it twice a day for long periods of time in really hot saunas, but just to know that going in there does increase growth hormone, which helps us retain muscle mass and also grow muscle mass. Maybe after you've been for a session, going into the sauna after that can have some real benefit. It also has a benefit to endurance. So what was the endurance study? So there were runners, I believe. They went into the sauna after their workout twice a week. So after their workout twice a week into the sauna they went. Their running times till exhaustion, so how far they could go, increased by, I wonder if you guys can see this, I can't, it's 32% after being in the sauna after their workouts twice a week. Okay, and I'll need to double check to see how long that they did that for, but it did increase the amount that they were able to endure. They're running till exhaustion by a considerable amount. And a lot of that's got to do with that way when we're exercising, we can hit the wall because our glycogen stores all start to go. When we begin to acclimatize to heat stress, the need for that glycogen starts to go down. So we don't require as much and we don't necessarily hit the wall like we might do if we were really relying on that. So there's a big factor there, especially if we're exercising a lot or just exercising in general. We can do more, our endurance is improved. Right, now we start to get into some really interesting stuff. So brain function. So there's something that gets increased through exercise, but also even a little bit more so with the sauna, and especially when you start stacking this stuff on top of each other. So it's not like do this one and don't do that one. But if you are exercising and you're not going into the sauna, when you do start going in, you increase the benefits more. So doing sauna and exercise really increases something called BDNF. It's brain derived nootropic factor. Okay, but what that basically is miracle grow for brain cells. So it increases new brain cells and it promotes the survival of existing brain cells. And as we age, then all these things are starting to go on the downward slope, you know, but we want to be promoting the growth of new stuff and also helping the existing stuff be as functional as optimal as possible. It also increases neuroplasticity, which is really helpful for learning and for memory. So that heat stress and being in there, that good stressor really helps our brain for learning, for memory. And it's also been shown in research to decrease depression and anxiety from trauma that's happened earlier on in life, basically. So the sauna use has been shown to kind of tie in quite well with that, with helping out with people with depression and anxiety who have suffered trauma earlier in life. And that's all to do with that BDNF. Okay, so it's helpful for brain function, right? Now, this is another interesting one. We've all heard of, well, a lot of the time people are aware of endorphin, that feel-good hormone that people are relatively well aware of. But what they're not so aware of is something called Dinorphan. Dinorphan's the opposite one. So when you're exercising, or maybe when you're in the sauna, or even if you're eating spicy food sometimes, you feel that kind of discomfort. That's that Dinorphan hormone kicking in. Now, that happens quite considerably in the heat, especially when we're kind of not being silly with it, because this is important to remember that you don't want to push yourself into crazy amounts of stress here. You want to safely do this and do it in a way that is consistent and you just gradually increase over time. But when we do kind of lean into that slight feeling of discomfort a little bit, that Dinorphan gets created. What happens there, though, is you become more sensitive to endorphin as a result of this buildup of Dinorphan. So then when you experience something that would normally create endorphin, and that can be like a hug from a friend or the variety of things in our experience that can create endorphin, the Dinorphan has made us more sensitive to endorphin. So then we enjoy it more. So basically what I'm saying there is the good things that we like become better, because we've kind of experienced that discomfort, we've increased that Dinorphin and become more sensitive to the good feeling hormone endorphin as well. Does that make, I hope that makes sense. Okay, here we go. So this is the big study. So this is the one that really highlighted a variety and made people ask questions with regards to Why is sauna so helpful for longevity? So there was a Finnish study of 2,000 middle-aged men that they followed for 20 years, okay? And it was looking into heart health, because the sauna and heart health, that's been quite close. People know, they know that that's helpful. And we'll get into why briefly shortly. But they followed 2,000 middle-aged men for 20 years. Now, what they found was there was a reduction in fatal cardiovascular disease by 27% for the people that were going in 2 to 3 times a week. But it was dose dependent. So if you were going in more, there was more of a reduction in fatal cardiovascular disease if you were going in more. So 4 to 7 times per week, there was a 50% reduction in fatal cardiovascular disease as a result of going into the sauna. Now, these saunas they're quite hot. So the study was looking at the Finnish, the study was looking at a Finnish sauna that were around about 75 degrees Celsius, and they were going in for around about 20 minutes or more. That's quite intense to start off with, but you build up to that. You know, it's just about starting a helpful, good practice, and you just build and build and build. But just so you know, that's what kind of the temperatures and the times for the study. So that was the cardiovascular disease reduction benefits, I guess, from being in the sauna, and that was amazing. But then they found out something else that was really that blew the kind of shook things up a little bit and made them start asking some questions. It wasn't just fatal cardiovascular disease, it was all-cause mortality that was also reduced. So everything. So people who were going in 2 to 3 times a week had a 24% reduction in all-cause mortality for all kind of natural causes of death. But that again was dose dependent. So for those that were going in 4 to 7 times per week, there was a 40% reduction in all-cause mortality. Everything was reduced by going into the sauna 4 to 7 times per week for around about 20 minutes. So that kind of says it all really with regards to that. So once I heard that, then that was it, you know, and we're just going in as regularly as we possibly can. Now, it's not necessary, some people can't because they're not there. But there has been research to show that just a hot bath, increasing the temperature, you know, will also have some real benefits. So hot baths I've been using quite regularly if I can't get into the sauna. Obviously not so hot that you're burning yourself or anything crazy or silly like that. But just getting that core temperature up and just doing it where we can regularly is really showing some interesting benefits. But that all-cause mortality one is one that gets bandied about quite a lot as a kind of a very interesting benefit with regards to this stuff. So quickly, why, right? So why is it so good? So from the cardiovascular point of view, I've just really briefly touched on this. You're getting your heart rate's getting increased when you're going in there. So you're mimicking moderate to sometimes high intensity exercise through going in the sauna. So for some people who are maybe injured or can't get into exercise for whatever reason, it can be a really helpful way to mimic that, and the cardiovascular health kind of almost mimics that kind of exercise benefit. But then we're looking at some other stuff. So heat stress increases something called heat shock proteins. What heat shock proteins do is they make sure that the cell doesn't get damaged during stress, and that's just life oxidative stress stuff. So the cell doesn't get damaged through the stressors of life, whatever that may be. What happens to the cell when it gets damaged or stressed, or one of the things that can happen is the 3D structure of it gets flattened. The heat shock proteins don't allow that. They keep the structure there, which is very helpful to build more resilience and stop cells getting damaged. So that's super helpful. Heat stress also turns on this thing called FOXO3. So right down at the genetic level, at that kind of genome DNA level, this FOXO3 is a master regulator of different genes. So turning genes on, that's what's going on with a lot of this. It's turning things on, turning things off, and different people will turn things on, turn things off in different ways depending on their genetics. But the heat will turn on FOXO3. So FOXO3 is super helpful at turning on a variety of longevity genes. So first thing it will do is help turn on genes that are helpful for DNA repair. So that means that the damaged cells get repaired and they don't necessarily form cancerous mutations, which is very helpful. FOXO3 also increases genes that will kill off the damaged cells so they can't lay there and cause more kind of cancerous mutations. FOXO3 also increases genes that are involved in immune system function that decline with age. So this heat stress really turns on this master regulator of genes that just turns on all of these longevity pathways. So the heat's really helpful for that at that kind of genetic level. Okay, that was a really, really quick fly through of everything, but I just wanted to touch on these benefits because it's not just about going in there and feeling a bit more relaxed. There's a lot going on, but you feel relaxed too a lot of the time, but it's also leaning into the discomfort. And obviously we've got a lovely picture of Gray here when he was up at our retreat after having a fantastic sauna and getting all of those cool benefits. And yeah, I hope some of you can come up and join us up there to get the benefits for yourself, because they're real, you know, on top of stacking all of the other benefits from all of the other things that we're talking about and doing. Okay, I know that was a quick fly through, but I wanted to hit on those benefits for everybody. Does anyone have any? Will we do questions now, Gray, and then we'll go to the floor?
Questions, then just fire away. You can pop them in the chat, or if you want to raise a hand and ask questions in person, that's fine. I'll just stop your screen participation. I forgot about that photograph.
That's a cracker.
Thank you for putting that up there, Andrew.
No problem.
I'll tell you, the figures there again are fantastic. The percentage wise, like 40% decrease. What was it? What was that figure? 40%? 40%
decrease in all-cause mortality, and they factored out all of the different, like, you know, all the other factors that could play into that, whether it's like if people are smoking, socioeconomic things, various different things. They've factored that out. So Melissa said infrared heated saunas as opposed to more traditional ones. The research that I'm looking at or talking about there, especially the Finnish stuff, that came from traditional Finnish saunas that tend to be hotter. There's a lot of interesting research on some of the stuff they do in Japan. I can't remember the exact name of it. That again was showing some of these benefits. It just wasn't quite as they're not quite as hot. I think infrared's maybe not quite as hot. But you know, you're still getting some fantastic benefits. But just the ones that I was kind of focusing on there, specifically the one at the end, the Finnish stuff, they were from Finnish saunas that were hotter. They're looking at 70, I think it's nearly enough 80 degrees that they're in there for up to 20 minutes. That's really hot, you know, and that isn't something that necessarily everyone's jumping in there. You're not getting any of these benefits unless you're doing that. You're going to get benefits, and it's about working up to that. The research can be found from Rhonda Patrick, Found My Fitness. She's got it all there. If you go to Rhonda Patrick, Found My Fitness sauna, it's basic as this. And she goes into far more detail about that. She's really championing this as a way. She believes that it will be used as prescribed to people for cardiovascular issues in the coming years. Because it's just so clear that it's so helpful. So Rhonda Patrick is the one to look at there. Somebody asked that question.
Just going back to the infrared ones, the one I've got ordered and that I'm going to get next week, that's an infrared sauna as well. And I've literally just looked at the specs on it now, and the range, the temperature goes up to 65 degrees in this. So you're not getting it up to 75 degrees, but it goes from 30 to 65 degrees, so you're still getting quite a bit of heat from that. So, and there is something in the infrared, in the way that's being done, that I think produces. It's not just a case of, oh well, it's not quite as hot, so it's not going to get that. I think the way that you're doing it with infrared, I'm not massively I know about to discuss it just now, but you can certainly look at that. There's definitely benefits of infrared sauna. But just that Finnish one was in Finland. In Finland, they're all just chucking the water on the rocks, and they're going for it, you know, and getting it super hot. But there's all kinds. Just get that increasing heat. It can be a hot bath, you know, can produce some benefits. It's just within that research study. That's what that was showing. That makes sense. So Scott has got a question. If you see Scott's question, any evidence on reducing the effects of or eliminating Raynaud's disease? Raynaud's.
I need to see. I'm not sure. I need to have a look at it again. Again, Rhonda Patrick. There's a meta-analysis study. So what that means is it's a compiling of all of the research with regards to sauna, and it's delivered in a way that's really palatable, and you can find the different studies throughout the whole thing. So it's a really, really nice way to get all of the information in. And if there's specific things that you're wanting to look at, then she's highlighted where to see the study, and then you can go from there. Was there another question there?
Yeah, do feel free just to unmute yourselves and ask questions personally if that's easy for you. How do saunas, Angus is asking, how do saunas compare to cold therapy such as ice baths?
I think there's a lot of benefit for cold therapy. I think that's probably another one that we'll do at some point in time as well. It's a different kind of stressor that's happening with regards to the genes that are being turned on. I'm not sure if it's the same kind of pathways that are happening from hot and cold. The thing that's happening with cold is that it's turning into causing your brown fat to, or I don't know if it's transferring the fat from white to brown or beige fat, but it's there's a lot to do or coming out with regards to cold and ways to fat reduction and various other things. I need to look into it a little bit more, but it's different things. It's a different stressor that is really, really helpful, but it's just not the exact same stuff. If that makes sense.
I'm supposing it's a hormetic stress, isn't it? So it's a similar type of, it's a stress that you're putting on the body, but maybe just getting a slightly different response.
Exactly.
Gillian is asking, how long do you spend? I aim now for 15 minutes. Is that okay?
This is all good. It's all great. And I think the issue that you sometimes get with explaining the benefits through these research studies is that people, if it's not the same as that, am I still getting that benefit? And I think you are, for sure, whether it's infrared or if it's not exactly 20 minutes or more at 80 degrees, which not many saunas, if you're going to the one at the gym or the local one, are. I'm not going, the ones that I'm going, they're not like that either. I think 15 minutes is great, but the thing is, if you can 15, and then as long as you're feeling comfortable too, and it's not too much of a stressor for you, because you never want to push these things too hard, if you can lean into it a little bit, and then it increases over time. Because I think the key thing to note from some of it was dose dependent. So the ones that were going in for longer were getting more benefits, and that's maybe just more times a week or slightly longer time, but just that more compiled time and potentially temperature as well, what was causing that. So it's just little bit by little bit, just increasing it as we can. I know a lot of saunas it's 15 minutes on the sand timer, but leaning into it a bit can be helpful.
I think.
Do you mind if I ask a verbal question?
Yeah, hi.
Is that okay? Hi, yes, it is. Hi, Greg. Andy, so how does this play into the hot-cold kind of dichotomy of stress? Because when I have a sauna, I like to immediately have a cold shower afterwards. Does that mean I undo some of the benefit? Are you meant to let yourself kind of marinate in the heat without having that cold, or can you mix and match? And
I think you can mix and match.
Yeah.
I think mixing and matching is okay. I think, see, in these finished studies, they're going in and they're coming out all the time. That's part of how they do it. That's an integral bit of it. They're going in, they're cooling down, they're going back in again, they're cooling down. And somebody referred to it once as a swing, almost. You go in for a little bit and you cool down, and you go in for a bit longer and you cool down for longer. So I think just finding out what's comfortable for you. Just the fact that if you're doing it, then it's just the best thing, and just leaning into that feeling of discomfort to an extent without pushing too hard, I think just generates the benefits, and then you just build a practice on that over time, but just not going too crazy too quickly and thinking that you need to be in for a certain amount of time. I think mixing it up with cold is great, and that kind of opening and closing that you get from that kind of hot and then the cold and the hot and the cold to help deliver oxygen and increase blood flow is really helpful too. So now I certainly wouldn't say don't do hot. I mean, I'm doing that. I'm going into the cold when I can and then coming back into the hot again. And that's what we'll do at the retreats too. There's just so much benefit from all of that, and as long as it's happening, I think it's great.
Can I just invert that question? I've just thought of something What about, because I also do cold showering and cold therapy. So, and there's a lot of thinking around part of the effect of that is to let your body then switch on its own internal heating process as a response to that. If I go from a cold to hot, am I undermining some of the benefit coming from the cold? Or what's your view on that kind of pathway?
I think with regards to hot to cold, what can be quite a nice thing to do, just in between them, so we're not shocking from one, and then especially when it starts to get longer and colder, we're not going directly from one big stressor straight into the next stressor. I would take, and use your breathing as this one, you know, take time to just get your breathing into a nice calm place, and then just move kind of move between them that way. I don't know if that answers your question properly, but I think that's something that we would tell people during the retreat to do, is to make sure that you've got your breathing normalized, you're bringing that kind of nasal breathing, that calm parasympathetic system into play before you move from stressor to stressor, because it can be quite intense just to jump from one to the other. I think it's always important to be able to use the breath, bring that the mindful awareness benefit that you get out of all of this is so important too. You know,
maybe I would like to also compliment here, Panagiotis. Hi, is that also, I mean, part of the benefits of sauna is detoxification, right? So we want that sweating to happen, and you even sweat maybe for 10, 15 minutes, whatever, after you get out of the sauna, right? So I think if the detoxification is what you're looking for, probably not jumping directly into the cold shower actually has some benefits. I don't know your thoughts on that, Andrew.
Oh no, that makes complete sense. I think that, and in various other places I've seen that this idea of just going directly from one bang straight into the other, bang straight into the other one, I think is you want to just give your body a little bit of time between the two, probably, to not create too much stress as well. And again, I guess thinking about what you're doing it for too. So from a detoxification perspective, then yeah, definitely giving yourself time to be able to sweat all of that through. It makes complete sense before you're kind of shutting that down in the cold. So yeah, definitely. There's just so many different benefits to it. It's amazing, really. And I think people are kind of catching up to that.
Angus is asking if you have limited space, are there things such as sauna blankets? Are they useful to a full sauna?
I think anything where you're going to be bringing up your core temperature is going to be it's going to be helpful. I've not tried the blankets. I'm not that familiar with them, so I don't know. I've certainly known that some of a colleague of mine was using them and really loved them. He was a big runner, and he found them to be super helpful for him and his family. I don't know about them, so I'm not 100% sure on the direct benefits. As I say, these benefits that I'm pulling out here, especially the 40% decrease in all-cause mortality thing, that comes from a Finnish study where they were in Finnish kind of traditional saunas with the rocks where they're putting the water on. That's where that's coming from. But just in general, sometimes a hot bath has been shown to, or been studied and shown to reduce depressive symptoms as well. That was another one that Rhonda Patrick was speaking of too. So yeah, I think there's a variety of different ways that it can be done, which is great.
And actually, you don't have to have loads of space. I mean, I'm lucky because I'm having a refurb going on here, so I'm having a new bathroom put in, etc. So I'm not saying you all need to go and buy a sauna, and I'm certainly not on any commission for selling saunas, but I just decided not to put a bath in and just to put a small sauna in. So I'll just share with you, and as I say, I'm not making any money on selling these, but I'll just share with you on the chat the sauna that I put in, which is it's a box with a heater in it basically. So hopefully it works. Gillian's got a hand up. Gillian's got a question. Hi, Gillian.
Thanks. Just to ask also about heart rate. You know, I'm pleased that I was getting a bit concerned when I was in the sauna and noticing my heart rate going up, and I was thinking, is that a good thing? Yeah. So thinking about whether, what you're aiming for, or just as a bit of a guide, if it's going to go up, should you ideally sort of bring it down a little bit, breathe in perhaps before you come out? Or is it just going to keep? I did it this morning actually. I was looking, I was all right, it's going right up.
Yeah, it will do. It's going to mimic that, almost that kind of exercise. Essentially, the heart rate's going to, and you can really feel it when you go in there. And the longer that you stay in for, the more and more that it will go up. And you can get it considerably high. And I think with that one, it's always just to err on the side of caution. You know, don't push yourself into a place where you're super stressed and it's getting really high and you're feeling really uncomfortable. I know I'm saying lean into that feeling of discomfort, but you need to doing it carefully. With regards to numbers, I would never want to say, oh, if you want it to be this or you want it to be that. I think just going in and starting like a consistent practice that you slowly build, and whether that's time or it's temperature, whatever it may be. And then if you are in there, and you know you are feeling those feelings of discomfort, using your breath to be able to try to manage the stressor when you're in there can be quite a nice way to practice bringing on that parasympathetic break while you're in quite a stressful environment. And then you might notice that, oh, do you know what, actually it's not quite as bad as I thought it was, and that crosses over into everything, you know. But yeah, never pushing yourself too far or thinking that you need to get to a certain time, because different days will be different, certain heart rates, certain time. And then always using the breath as a way to be able to down-regulate and downshift when you're in there, but then also when you come out too, because it can be quite intense, and we need to be careful with these things as well, you know. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, thanks. Just a very, very quick one to add. Just quickly about steam rooms, and just whether, because I've stopped going in, there's a steam room as well. And I was thinking, I've heard that saunas are more beneficial than steam, wet steam. Just interested in your views on that as well.
And I think I'm probably similar to yourself. Like I was in them for a while. I've stopped using it as much, more just because it wasn't hot, or it wasn't anything like as hot. So the experience, the subjective experience that you were getting in there wasn't anything like what was happening in the sauna. And then the benefits that I've been seeing when kind of going through the research all kind of focus on sauna. I'm sure there's plenty of benefits to going into a steam room. Benefits to so many of these different things, and there will likely be research there. But some of the more powerful stuff that I've seen has kind of been focusing, and just hearing about has been sauna. So that's why I've been focusing on that, just for time as well, you know.
Yeah.
Because there's only so much time to do it in your day.
Thank you.
I think the point you make there about heart rate, and I think the question about time, we say this every lunch and learn, it's going back to listen to your body, isn't it? It's like with exercise, it's like, do I run for 15 minutes? Well, if you're used to running for an hour, then 15 minutes is going to feel easy. If you've only run for 5 minutes, then somebody to say run for 15 minutes is going to be a challenge. So don't think necessarily of the time. Tune in, listen to your body. You're going to be aware that your heart rate is going to increase, but you don't want it to that level where it's really, really uncomfortable. So as with everything, it's really tuning in to yourself and to how you're feeling. I would have thought.
Different days you'll feel different. Some days it's really you can go in for a bit longer, other days you can't, and you know that's fine. It's just about kind of starting a helpful practice. There's definite research showing improvements for longevity with regards to it, and it feels quite nice too. You feel great after it, as you do with exercise and so many of these different things. You know, the subjective feeling is great. Cool. Is there any more questions?
Any more? I think we've got. Have I missed anybody in the chat?
Just one other quick question to add in what you were just saying then, Andrew. Is there a kind of maximum core body temperature? If you were able to monitor your core body temperature in a sauna, is there? I know we're going off feel, and that's intuition and feeling is really important. But it is possible to overdo it, as you know. And by the time you come out, you're like, oh God, I've done too much. If you were able to measure your core temperature, would there be a maximum limit, or is it a percentage shift from yours?
You know what? I'm unsure on. I wouldn't want to say numbers of what to be. I think I'm not sure. When I was going through, again, see if you go to Found My Fitness and you look for sauna from Rhonda Patrick, it's everything is there. Literally everything.
Rhonda Patrick, is it?
Rhonda Patrick is the lady's
Patrick,
name.
right.
And
Thank you.
it's Found My Fitness, and it's her company.
Can you
That's a
paste the
wealth of
URL
knowledge
here?
for everything.
Maybe?
Sorry.
Can you paste the URL?
Oh, yeah. Of course I
If
can,
you
sorry.
have.
No, I'll get it now. Give me a second. How do I do that?
Perfect.
Thank you.
By the way, in the meantime, I have to say that the URL that Gray pasted looks pretty amazing. So I also don't have too much space. And now you get me thinking very.
Well, wait. I think by the end of next week, I should have it fitted. So I could do a lunch and learn from this in the next couple of weeks and tell you whether it works or not. I've just found My Fitness, so I can post that as well. Have you found it?
I think I've done that here. Is that it? That should be it now.
All right, yeah.
You got that? Yeah, that's it there.
Tim's popped it in there as well.
Okay, sure.
Oh, nice. Well done. Yeah.
Well, Tim's popped in increased endurance, and then Andrew's popped in the specific sauna stuff. Brilliant.
Yeah, so that's all there. She's great. She's really, really good. Andy, do you have a question there, mate?
Yes, I could contribute something here. I do have a sauna myself.
Oh, cool.
Had it for about a year now, and I think it was Scott was asking. What I find is there's a huge difference between going in the sauna, not doing a workout, and going in the sauna after a workout. I'm interested in your experience on that, if you have any.
Yes.
But what I do find is if I maybe go a run or something like that, or skip or whatever, and I go in the sauna afterwards, my core temperature, obviously, there's a huge difference. And my heart rate, I do monitor there's a heart rate from, that was just going in the sauna the other day, and I hadn't done anything prior, so it just goes steadily up. I think the Whoop is telling me I got to 135. So I was just sitting there, in the sauna. I was quite happy. I don't have the temperature too high. I originally, when I first bought it, that was a point, Gray, you spoke about, with an infrared sauna, you're working with temperatures way lower than a steam sauna. So for instance, that the other day, I'm not a young thing, I have to say, but the other day, I think I was in there probably up to about 50 degrees, between 50 and 55. That is pretty hot in an infrared sauna. I think probably for most people, and you'll find if you've been a worker, you've done a workout prior to that and go in at that temperature, your heart rate really will climb. I think I'm interested in any experience of anyone.
I mean, I couldn't agree more. Like when you go in after a run or after any kind of workout, then there's seems to be your temperature's already up from the workout, and it's just adding on top, so definitely not being able to be in for as long post workout than without is definitely seems to be that's the way it's usually been. And just never pushing it too hard, I mean, leaning into discomfort and causing these hormetic stressors, just you don't need to go bonkers with it, but just leaning in over time, and then you see how you go. But yeah, I definitely found that recovery seems to be, I think, helped to an extent with it too. I feel a bit more recovered after I've been in the sauna after a workout. If you're going to maybe train on consecutive, train a lot, then that seems to be quite helpful. I always like to measure heart rate variability to just check that one as well. I think heart rate variability is a tool to be able to see how the nervous system is recovered is really a nice one, as opposed to just guessing. But the sauna seems to have had quite a pretty helpful impact on probably increasing baseline heart rate variability and helping most of the time, not always, but quite a lot of the time. But definitely.
That's interesting. That was one of my questions to you, because I find very often the heart rate variability can take a hit from a sauna.
Yeah.
You know, I'm 61, so I've got no doubt there's age probably will no doubt have something to do with that. But I do find, particularly if I don't go in the sauna after workouts now, but particularly if I have a really hot sauna, if I'm not doing much else that day, I will sit longer and have it hotter. But I do find the following day sometimes the heart rate variability takes a hit, and then it picks up, of course. The stress response.
It's so the HRV is very individual. It's so individualized as well, you know, and we're finding out more and more about that all the time when we're doing those. Gray and I or various other instructors working on all of it. It's such an individualized thing. It's just such a great way to be able to see how it's affected you and then make the decisions that are right for you. That's what I like about it. You know, it's as a tool to be able to see how things impact you, and then you can make the best decisions based on that, because we're all individuals, right? And different things affect us all differently, and that's what I love about HRV. But anyway, that's a different one. But yeah, no, cool.
I've got a question for Andy, actually. Yep. Where are you? You got daffodils. Are the daffodils out there?
Yeah, they're actually real daffodils.
They're brilliant.
Nice.
And I bought them in the supermarket the other day, and they come from Jersey.
I was going to say, because where you based up in Scotland, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm in here. I don't know where you are, Andrew.
Yeah, not too far.
There you go. I'm in here.
Yeah, I'm Glasgow.
I thought that.
We've got a few Scotland people on here today, as usual.
Cool. No, a sauna is great to have in Scotland, I can tell you.
Aye. Aye. Cool.
Let's do a bit of movement. Should we do a bit of movement?
Do a wee bit of this? Okay,
yeah,
cool.
I mean, one of the, as you know, most of you know on here, so like this year I'm planning quite a few retreats. The first one is coming up next month, actually, yes, next month with Andrew. So we'll be doing the retreat in Scotland. Panayotis is on today, which is great to see. And he was on, there was a lot of people who were asking about protein all week following your Lunch and Learn last week as well. And September time, we're doing the retreat in Greece as well. But one of the things that we practice in Scotland, we do the hot and cold therapy, we do the saunas. Interesting you were saying about going from hot directly into cold. I was just thinking about when we did it in November, we were doing some Qigong movement to actually help calm the body before we were going into the lock into the cold. So that was quite nice as well. So the whole aim of the retreat in Scotland is about getting out in nature. It's very different to Greece in September, which is going to be beautiful and warm. In Scotland, it's going to be beautiful and cold. So the idea of it's not just about being out in nature when it's warm, it's experiencing all of the different seasons. So we're paying particular attention to this winter season of winter. In a Qigong terms, the season of winter is all about the water element. For those of you who've done the 5-element flow practice the last week or so, you'll understand about the water element, but we can talk about that a little bit more as we go through the breathe, balance, move stuff. But also in the Scottish retreat, we will be doing some Andrew will be teaching some animal flow movements. We'll be doing mindful walks, a little bit of trail running. So it's just quite nice for Andrew just to give us a little bit of a practice in animal flow. So you can either watch, if you want to watch, or if you have some room, you can join in and have a little play.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, so this will work as a demo video for people, just so you don't even need, if you don't want it, you don't need to do it just now. But this is a nice movement, I think, for being able to build strength, and you can challenge yourself with it, but you can also, we'll look at regressions as well, so I'll talk through all of that. But yeah, if you've only got a very short space of time and you don't have much space, then this works really, really well. So the way that it works, guys, is that we come into like a tabletop kind of position. In animal flow, we refer to this as a beast position. So I'll just talk you through what this looks like, okay? You can see me, and just please follow along with me if you fancy it. But I've got my wrists stacked underneath my shoulders. My knees are stacked either underneath my hips or a bit further forward. Watch the knees don't track back here. That can tend to happen quite a lot. So make sure that the knees are under the hips or even a bit further forward towards the belly button. I've got my kind of toes pushing into the ground here. And then if I have to look under myself, my wrists and my knees and my toes are all kind of in line. So everything's in line. I've got quite a nice structure here. Now in this position, what we can do is like a bit of a cat-camel to mobilize the spine. The way that we do that is initially as we will, let's get these mixed up, as we arch the spine. So we begin to tilt the pelvis, we arch the back, or arch the spine, and then we begin to look up. And then we go the other way. We begin to look down. We begin to push off the ground, rounding the spine, tilting the pelvis the other way. But we can do this on the exhale, nice and slow. So we've got a rounded back now. And then as we breathe in, we're going to tilt the pelvis the other way, begin to arch the spine and look up. It's just nice for spinal mobilization. Inhaling as we look up. And then tuck the chin, exhaling, rounding the back, tilting the pelvis, all slow, all with intention, and just connecting the breath and the movement. Nasal breathing, soft and light, and just you get into a rhythm of that yourself, whatever feels comfortable for you. Inhale and arch and exhale and round. We do that a few times. And then we get into a position where we've got a nice kind of neutral spine now. We've got a neutral spine again, wrist stacked underneath shoulders, knees stacked underneath hips, toes pushing into the ground. Now what we're going to do here is activate this position. Now to activate it, what I would be doing is my left hand, I hope I get this right, my left hand, I'm almost screwing into the ground anti-clockwise. My right hand, I am screwing into the ground clockwise. So it's that feeling that we're screwing almost our elbow pits forward, left hand anti-clockwise, right hand clockwise to create tension through the shoulders and through the arms. Then I just tighten up my core a little bit, give my bum a squeeze to kind of create tension within the core, the glutes, sorry. So now my kind of arms, my core, my legs and my glutes are all creating tension. I push my toes into the ground and I just lift my knees off the ground slightly, just enough to slide a piece of paper. If that feels quite difficult, you can just move one leg up off the ground, just lifting from the hip. If you don't like that one, you can just lift the limb by lifting one leg off the ground and keeping the other knee on. But if you feel up for it, both knees come up and then just try to breathe easy and count breath cycles. And that's it. That will create a little bit of a hormetic stressor, we'll call it, across the system. And just bring your knees down whenever you're ready. So that alone can be a really nice movement just to start to build some strength and yeah, just create a nice good stressor for the body. Again, if that feels, lifting both knees feels uncomfortable, then what to do is just lift one knee, or lift one leg, sorry, lifting from the hip, but just enough to slide a piece of paper, and then you can swap to the other leg. So you can try that. Just keeping one knee down, lifting the other limb just from the hip. And what we'll do now is we'll lift the arms, okay? So we're going to keep our knees on the ground here, but just lifting our arm, but lifting from the shoulder. So I'll show you from here, we keep a straight arm, and we just lift from the shoulder, and then come down, try the other side, and then come down. And we'll give it one more go at just lifting the knees. Again, don't push yourself too much here. We don't want to cause any injury, but create that tension, screw those arms in, tighten up the core, squeeze the bum, dig the toes in, and then lift the knees. And just try and breathe easy in there. Counting breath cycles. And just come down whenever you're ready. And just as a way to finish the movement off, to kind of bring everything back down again. So after you've been doing that for a good few breath cycles, that can create a bit of stress in the system. What we want to do to bring things back down again is just put our forearms on the ground, bring our head onto our forearms. You can relax the toes and relax the feet here. Now we're just going to be breathing into our upper back. So just inhaling. And as we inhale, notice that expansion of the upper back. And then as we exhale, just notice how the upper back kind of falls back in again. We're just breathing into our backs here. Now, as we exhale, just try to exhale a little bit longer with every exhale that you do. And that can be a nice way to engage that parasympathetic brain. So just inhaling, noticing, being aware of that expansion of the upper back. And then as we exhale, just extending it out a little bit longer with each exhale. Gently bringing your attention back to your breathing whenever your mind wanders. Do a couple more breaths. Cool. Nice one. Then we come back up. For those of us that are getting that go, and for those of you that didn't, no worries. You can watch it again if you fancy giving it a go. There you go. Okay. Nice one.
Any questions? Anybody still on the floor? Any other questions? Any questions on the animal flow? Any questions? Any more questions on the sauna? A couple of people just had to drop off because it's 2 o'clock. We will give a shameless, and I say shameless, plug for our retreat. So if anybody wants to come along in February, so it's just under, actually it's just under a month.
Under a month, yeah.
Under a month away. So, and there are still places. So if you want to join the retreat, I'll pop the link into the chat there.
Will you do any more end of the year, Gray?
Yes, we are planning another couple actually. We haven't exactly got the date set, but it was very popular last time and lots of interest, so definitely there will be more retreats. But if you do want to join this one, there is a special offer on this weekend as well, so we're taking £50 per person off just to get the last few spaces full. So that's the details on the retreat. And Andrew, if you've got any other comments or questions or anything else you want to share with us?
That's great. Just, yeah, if anybody's interested, let us know. If anybody's any questions or thinks of any questions, just let us know. But it'd be great to see anyone up there. And most importantly, thank you very much, everyone, for taking the time to come and hear what we had to say.
Could I make a comment? You can, Tom.
Please.
You can stop me if you don't like it. I'd say, having been in the Loch Long retreat in November, and having had saunas over the years, usually in swimming baths, and been fairly, well, not hugely fun at times, but not really impressed. I was astonished at the sauna at Loch Long. John, that was organising it, was really, really good. Explained it well. And the whole thing was a complete revelation. It was really good. And as we talked about, even being in the loch afterwards, after the heat, was going from fear and trepidation into, good grief, am I really sitting here in the cold loch?
Yeah.
It was quite amazing.
I think it's helped me deal with stress afterwards. I'm not an athlete, but I was in the loch at Loch Long, and I didn't manage it as well as the people that did the breathing, like the buffalo breathing. They managed it much better, but it has helped me deal with stress since then.
Oh, that's fantastic.
That's great. That's so great to hear.
That's interesting. That's really interesting. Yeah.
No, thank
Great.
you. Thank you
No,
so
thank you
much
very
for
much.
sharing that. Thank you.
It was a pleasure to have you there.
Yes, and come again.
Yeah. Cool.
Brilliant. Andrew, thanks ever so much
No,
for,
that was a
as
pleasure, guys.
always,
Thanks for taking the time.
really
Cheers,
interesting
now.
information. And I'll let you know how I get on. Well, I will share, well, I won't share pictures in the sauna. Well, I can share pictures in the sauna. I'll share information about how I got on in the sauna. And have a great weekend, everybody.
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you. Thanks,
Thank
Andrew.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Andrew.
Really
Bye,
helpful.
everyone.
Pleasure. Thank
Next
you.
week.
Bye.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Thanks now. Bye.
Bye.